Close your eyes now, breathe deeply, and center yourself, not in the chaos around you, but in the stillness within. The world may rage, opinions may clash, a noise may rise like a storm, but you are not required to participate in that storm. You are not the echo of what is happening. You are the cause of what is to come. The outer world is only the mirror, and the mirror does not instruct the face, it reflects it. When life presses in and demands a reaction, do not give it your energy, rise above it. Let it pass as clouds pass before the sun. You are not the cloud, you are the light. To react is to descend into a state that is not your own. To rise is to remember the truth that you are not ruled by what happens, you are ruled by what you accept as true within yourself. You must not allow circumstances to dictate your inner state. That is the mistake of the many. They wait for peace to be shown to them, unaware that peace must first be chosen within them. So choose it now. Feel it, not in response to what the world is doing, but because it is your nature. Calm is not the reward of a quiet life. It is the decision of a quiet mind. And the one who masters that calm commands the storm without ever raising their voice. Imagine now that you are standing in the middle of an argument, in the middle of betrayal, in the middle of misunderstanding, and yet nothing in you moves. Imagine how powerful you must be to witness chaos without absorbing it. That is true strength. That is true mastery. And that is how you rise. You rise not by controlling others, but by mastering yourself. You rise not by proving your point, but by holding your peace. You rise not by shouting louder, but by becoming so rooted in truth that the noise of the world cannot penetrate your stillness. And when you are still, you are powerful, because the world cannot move a soul that is already anchored. This is not weakness, it is dominion. It is the kingdom within. It is the silence that shapes mountains, the stillness that rearranges outcomes. When you remain unbothered, you are not ignoring reality. You are commanding a higher one. You do not need to explain yourself to everyone. You do not need to defend your name in every room where it is spoken. You do not need to chase validation. Your stillness is your response. Your elevation is your evidence. Stay in your power. Stay in your peace. Because the moment you lower yourself to argue, to prove, to fight in the dust, you forget that you are the one seated in the heavens. The world will give you plenty of opportunities to react. That is its design. But those who are truly awakened know better. They know that every reaction is a surrender of creative power. They know that the moment they respond in haste, they have allowed the outer world to shape the inner man. So they stop, they breathe, they remember, and they return to their authority. There is nothing to defend when you know who you are. There is nothing to chase when you have already assumed the end. There is nothing to fear when you realize the world is only a reflection of the beliefs you hold firmly and quietly within. So do not react. Rise above gossip, rise above judgment, rise above fear, rise above the temptation to explain yourself endlessly to those not ready to understand. Some will misread your calm as weakness, but let them, for they know not the fire you hold within. Some will call your stillness passivity, but they cannot see the mountains you are moving in silence. Let them speak. Let the waves crash. Let the winds howl. You are not the storm. You are the command that silences it. You are not the waves. You are the authority that says, peace, be still, and watches the waters obey. So stay there, stay calm, stay grounded, stay anchored in the unseen truth, and let the world adjust itself to your stillness. Let it bend to your peace. Let it realign to your clarity, because it always does It always must. Keep breathing, keep believing, keep rising. Do not let the outer world disturb the inner sanctuary. What you see with your eyes is not the final word. What you hear with your ears is not the ultimate authority. The truth lies deeper in the silence between thoughts, in the awareness that precedes every reaction. That is where your power lives. That is where you must return again and again. Especially when the world would pull you out of yourself. You do not need to match the energy of what confronts you. You are not a mirror. You are the original. You are the scriptwriter, not the actor tossed around by the scene. Every moment that asks you to lower your vibration, every person who seeks to provoke, every circumstance that seems designed to agitate, these are invitations not to react, but to remember, not to lash out, but to lean in, not to collapse, but to ascend. It is not that you do not feel. You feel everything, but you no longer let feelings command you. You observe them. You let them rise and fall like waves, knowing that you are the ocean. Anger may come, but it does not stay. Fear may whisper, but it does not take root. You are no longer a guest in your own consciousness. You are the host. You decide what is welcome and what is not. This is not detachment born of denial. This is mastery born of deep knowing. You are not aloof. You are anchored. You are not numb. You are neutral. And that neutrality is your power because it allows you to choose from vision, not from. The man who reacts is led by the world. The man who remains unmoved leads the world. That is the secret. That is the path. You must become the one who sees the attack but does not let it shape his self-image. You must become the one who witnesses loss yet does not internalize defeat. You must become the one who hears the noise but remains tuned only to the frequency of truth. Others may call this weakness because they do not understand it. They believe strength is in the fist, in the raised voice, in the pointed finger. But true strength is in restraint. True power is quiet. It does not beg to be seen. It does not need to defend itself. It knows what it is. And what it is, what you are, is far greater than any circumstance that confronts you. You are not here to control others. You are here to command your own mind. And once you do that, everything else aligns. The world is not resisting you. It is reflecting you. If you meet fire with fire, you get more fire. If you meet it with stillness, the flame cannot spread. When you remain calm, the world becomes calm around you, not because the world changes, but because your inner state does. Imagine a situation that once triggered you. Someone lied to you. Someone betrayed you. Someone doubted you. In the past, you might have burned in response. Words thrown like daggers. Silence used like punishment. Retaliation disguised as righteousness. But now you see through it. You see it as an opportunity to return to yourself, not to lose yourself. You say nothing. You breathe. You affirm inwardly, I am untouched by this. I am not this reaction. I am the stillness behind it. And what happens? The power of the moment shifts. The energy loses its grip. You no longer feed the illusion. You no longer lend it your belief. You are free, not because the world became easier, but because you became unshakable. Freedom is not the absence of conflict. It is the ability to walk through conflict without being dragged into its story. Peace is not the absence of noise. It is the refusal to let noise dictate your direction. You must live from the inside out, not the outside in. The moment you let the outer world decide who you are no longer living, you are reacting. You are no longer choosing, you are chasing. But you were not born to chase, you were born to create. And creation does not emerge from panic. It flows from presence, from poise, from the unbothered awareness that knows all things are unfolding for your good, whether the world sees it yet or not. So you stop proving, you stop pleading, you stop engaging in battles that cost you your peace. You do not need to win every argument. You do not need to correct every misconception. You do not need to teach every lesson. Sometimes your silence is your elevation. Your peace is your response. Your glow is your defense. Let others wonder why you are so calm. Let them question your quiet. Let them project, misread, and mislabel. That is their lesson, not yours. You do not shrink to fit their narrative. You do not dim to make them comfortable. You shine quietly, steadily, endlessly. You rise. You rise not with effort, but with ease, not with noise, but with knowing, not with force, but with faith, because you have seen the truth. All things respond to your inner conviction. So you do not panic when things look wrong. You do not grasp when things feel delayed. You do not fight the shadows. You turn on the light. You keep walking. You keep believing. You keep assuming the best, even when you are shown the worst. You do not match energy. You raise it. You do not echo the world. You speak from the heavens. You do not get drawn into the narrative. You write a new one. When the door closes, you do not bang on it. You turn, you smile, and you walk toward the better one already forming. When the opportunity slips away, you do not chase. You remain still, knowing that what is meant for you does not run, it aligns. You understand that delay is not denial, it is redirection. And redirection is often the universe's protection in disguise. So you no longer fall apart when plans shift. You no longer spiral when people leave. You no longer question your worth. When the outcome differs from your desire, you trust. You trust the timing. You trust the process. You trust yourself. Because you have realized finally that the only true loss is the loss of your center. And you will no longer surrender that, not for anyone, not for anything. The world will keep spinning, people will keep talking, storms will rise and pass, but you are the eye of the storm. You are the calm that remains. You are the stillness that creates worlds. So sit tall in your truth, stand strong in your peace, rest boldly in your knowing. And let every moment that tempts you to react be the very moment you choose to rise. You no longer chase outcomes because you know outcomes are drawn to identity, and you have assumed the identity of the one who is never shaken, never rushed, never thrown off course by appearances. You walk through the world not as one seeking confirmation, but as one revealing confirmation. You do not wait for peace, you are peace. You do not beg for answers. You are the answer in form. You do not react to chaos. You neutralize it with the quiet strength of your presence. When you enter a room, the energy shifts not because of your words, but because of your being. The atmosphere bends to the tone you carry. You do not chase energy, you generate it. You do not need to raise your voice to be heard. You do not need to posture to be respected. Your presence speaks louder than performance. Your calm is louder than commotion. Your stillness sends a signal that others cannot ignore. To rise is not to avoid life. It is to meet life from the level of awareness, where you are no longer at the mercy of it. You do not deny that things happen. You deny their ability to define you. You no longer ask, why did this happen to me? You now declare, this happened for me. Because you know that everything, every delay, every betrayal, every closed door is working something eternal in you. Something deeper, something stronger, something untouchable. There is nothing noble in being tossed about by circumstances, but there is everything noble in choosing to remain unmoved. You do not numb yourself to reality, you transform it from the inside. You shift it not by reacting, but by realizing that the outer condition is always the echo, never the origin. You hold the origin, you carry the seed, you decide what takes root and what withers through inattention. And what is planted in the soil of inner calm grows with sacred precision. Because when you plant your intentions in a field of peace, not panic, the earth responds. Doors open that were never there before. People arrive who carry keys to rooms you hadn't even considered. Opportunities rise, not because you chased them, but because you aligned with them. You became the version of you who receives without resistance. And that version of you does not need to defend, deflect, or dominate. It simply dwells in the knowing, in the truth, in the calm. You are not the puppet of the world. You are the author of it. And authors do not argue with the characters they created. They rewrite them, they refine them, they reshape them. So if your reality displeases you, you do not react to it, you recreate it. You go back into the silence. You enter the sacred sanctuary of assumption. You assume the state of calm, of completion, of confidence. And you persist there, not for 5 seconds, not for a moment, but until it hardens into fact. Do not be fooled by appearances. Do not rush to answer every voice that demands your attention. Most of them are echoes, not calls. Most of them are distractions, not directions. And if you listen closely, you'll hear something deeper beneath all the noise. A whisper from the higher self, the voice within that does not shout, does not push, does not demand, it waits. It waits for you to be still enough to hear it. And when you hear it, you will remember. You will remember that you were never meant to be reactive. You were designed to be creative. You were not placed in this life to survive its winds. You were sent to command them. The wind does not move the mountain. The mountain shapes the wind. And you, in your stillness, become like that mountain. Firm, rooted, immovable, not because nothing touches you, but because nothing shakes you. You rise not to escape conflict, but to transcend it, not to ignore life's challenges, but to meet them from a higher state of awareness. You realize that every problem loses its power the moment you stop identifying with it. Every argument becomes void the moment you no longer need to be right. Every attack loses momentum the moment you no longer fear it. The one who is calm cannot be baited. The one who is centered cannot be provoked. The one who is unbothered does not fall for the tricks of urgency, of manipulation, of drama. They move differently. They speak less and mean more. They act from intention, not reaction. They embody the truth that still waters run deep, and those depths are where power truly lies. So you stop apologizing for your calm. You stop dimming your peace to fit into the storm of others. You stop explaining your silence to those who cannot hear its wisdom. You rest in your inner world, not as an escape, but as your throne. You return again and again to the knowing that everything you desire already exists, not out there, but within. And as you assume it within, it begins to take form without. This is why you do not react, you rise. You do not fight for evidence, you embody faith. You do not chase the outcome, you become the embodiment of the outcome, and let reality adjust itself accordingly. This is not fantasy, this is law. The inner determines the outer, always. And when you forget, when the noise tries to pull you back, when the old self wants to scream, to prove, to demand, you pause. You return to the breath. You return to the knowing. You return to the stillness that has always been yours. You return not because it is easy, but because it is essential. It is the only place where creation truly begins. Others may live from trigger to trigger. Others may live from panic to panic. But you now live from truth to truth, from assumption to manifestation, from peace to power. And that journey is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is subtle. It is sacred. It is still. So you keep walking in your knowing. You keep showing up in your presence. You keep moving from the center of who you are rather than the surface of what happens, because the surface will always shift. But the center, if guarded, if nurtured, if honored, will not only endure, it will govern. You are not here to be mastered by emotion. You are here to master emotion. You are not here to beg the world for change. You are here to change the world by changing the self. You are not here to chase peace. You are here to realize you are peace. And peace is not passive. Peace is the most powerful presence in the universe, because it cannot be moved by force. It absorbs and transmutes. It does not flint, it transforms. So be unbothered, not because nothing matters, but because you know what truly does. Be calm, not because you are indifferent, but because you are in tune. Be still, not because you are avoiding, but because you are creating. Keep choosing your center. Keep rising above the noise. Keep walking in the stillness that speaks louder than thunder, and watch how the world follows your lead, not because you forced it, but because you became the frequency it could not ignore. And so you stay still, not frozen, but focused, not passive, but poised. You are not ignoring the world, you are shaping it. You are shaping it not with frantic motion, but with the invisible, immeasurable power of assumption. You no longer seek control over what others do or say, because you have awakened to the only control that matters, the control over what you accept as true within yourself. When you are calm, you are choosing truth over appearance. When you are still, you are anchoring yourself in reality, not illusion. You begin to recognize how much of what once disturbed you was never truly about you. It was a mirror, a test, an invitation to believe something lesser. But now you reject the invitation. You no longer lower yourself to meet situations at the level of reaction. You elevate the moment by your response, or the absence of one. To react is to relive. To respond from inner vision is to rewrite. And you are no longer here to relive the same story over and over. You are here to write a new one, not dictated by wounds or patterns or old conditioning, but led by the new self, the higher self, the calm, risen self that already knows how this ends. The one who walks with the quiet assurance that everything is already aligned. You do not need to look over your shoulder to know you are safe. You do not need to argue your value when it has already been established in your consciousness. You no longer ask the world for permission to be whole. You are whole. You do not need evidence to rest in the promise. You are the promise. You do not wait for the circumstance to declare peace. You declare it yourself. And the circumstance must respond. The one who walks in faith does not need immediate validation. The one who lives from the end does not need proof. The one who has assumed the state does not need reassurance. So when the storm comes, and it will, you do not waver. You do not consult the storm for direction. You consult your knowing, and your knowing says, this too bends to me. Not through force, but through frequency, through consciousness, through stillness. You are no longer the version of yourself who reacts, who fears, who shrinks. That version may still whisper, may still linger in the corners of your awareness, but you no longer obey it. You observe it, You bless it. You release it. You replace it with the one who walks through fire and remains untouched, the one who moves through uncertainty and remains unshaken, the one who no longer lives by sight, but by inner knowing. Because sight can lie. It shows you the incomplete. It shows you the echo, not the cause. But inner knowing, that is the cause. That is the source. That is the unseen realm where all things begin. And once you begin to live from that place, nothing external can master you again. Not delays, not disappointments, not disrespect. They may appear, they may test you, but they no longer move you. You become like the tree planted by the water. It does not fear the drought. It does not rush to gather the rain. It knows the root is deeper than the season. And so are you. You are rooted in something far greater than circumstances. You are grounded in identity, in truth, in the quiet power that moves mountains without shouting. And so you remain anchored, aware, awake. You do not need to shout when you are aligned. You do not need to rush when you are rooted. You do not need to defend when you have dominion. This is not arrogance, it is awareness. This is not pride, it is presence. You are not above others, you are simply above the storm. Not because you escaped it, but because you transcended it. You did the work. You assumed the state. You let go of needing to win, needing to prove, needing to control. And because of that, everything began to align without strain. Let them call you quiet. Let them call you detached. Let them misunderstand your calm. That is not your burden to carry. Your stillness is not their business to decode. Your poise is not their puzzle to solve. It is your secret, your strength, your sacred space. Guard it, protect it, build your life from it. And from that stillness, you begin to create, not just reactively, but intentionally. You speak from a place that does not beg, it declares. You think from a place that does not doubt, it assumes. You act from a place that does not fear, it moves from faith. And because of that, everything shifts. Not because you forced it, but because you became it. Now, even in the face of accusation, you smile, not because you are numb, but because you are free. Now, even in the face of delay, you trust, not because you are blind, but because you see deeper. Now, even when you are misunderstood, you remain unbothered, not because it doesn't matter, but because you matter more. Your inner world has become your first and final authority. And you begin to notice the less you react, the more power you retain. The less you explain, the more influence you carry. The less you grasp, the more you receive. This is the paradox of peace. It brings to you what striving chases away. It magnetizes what anxiety repels. It aligns what effort alone cannot produce. So you do not resist the present moment, you enter it, you bring your full awareness to it, and from that awareness you rise not in body, but in being, not in volume, but in vibration. You rise not above people, but above patterns. You ascend not from pride, but from purpose, and you remain steady, watchful, intentional. While the world reacts, you remember. While others grasp, you trust. While noise surrounds, you stay attuned to the whisper of your own inner voice. The one that says, all is well. I am safe. I am whole. I am here. This moment too shall pass. The anger will fade. The tension will dissolve. The confusion will clear. But what remains? You. Your center, your chosen state, that is what endures. That is what creates. That is what changes everything. So keep choosing it. When the temptation comes to argue, choose peace. When the fear comes to worry, choose faith. When the pressure comes to react, choose stillness, and do it again and again and again until it becomes your natural state, until it becomes your home. You are not here to live at the mercy of events. You are here to shape events, through your state of being. You are not here to convince others of your worth. You are here to embody it so fully that the world has no choice but to reflect it back. You are not here to fight for your place. You are here to rise into it. And when you rise, others will feel it. Even if they don't understand it, they will feel it. Your calm will unsettle the unrooted. Your peace will shake what is built on panic. But that is not your concern. Your only concern is staying true to your center, no matter what tries to pull you away. And so you rise not once, but daily. Not from force, but from flow. Not for applause, but from alignment. You rise without reaction. You rise without retaliation. You rise, and in your rising, you remind the world of what true power looks like. And when you rise in this way, not from anger, but from awareness, not from frustration, but from fulfillment, you begin to change everything, not by force, but by frequency. The atmosphere around you takes its cues from the posture within you. Circumstances that once overwhelmed you now bend around you. People who once drained you no longer access the depths of you. And the patterns that once controlled you fall away, not because you fought them, but because you no longer feed them with your attention. There is no battle when you have already won within. There is no chaos when you have established order in your consciousness. The outer world can only mimic what you carry inside. So the more you remain in this state of calm, the more your life begins to reflect it, not as a fragile piece that depends on everything going well, but as an immovable foundation that remains even when everything shakes. You've seen it before. The moment you reacted in the past, you lowered your vibration. You spoke too soon, moved too fast, believed the worst, and the results followed. But now you remember. You do not move because you're afraid. You move because you're aligned. You do not speak to be heard. You speak to direct. And sometimes silence is the loudest direction. You no longer fear what others think. Their judgments are based on their own projections, not your truth. Their opinions are shaped by their own stories, not your spirit. Let them think what they will. You're no longer shaped by the noise. You're shaped by the silence within it. And that silence, that inner sanctuary is not empty. It is full of clarity, full of power, full of intention. You return to it not to escape the world, but to command it. You go there to reset, to realign, to remember. Remember who you are. Remember what you've declared. Remember that nothing outside of you is greater than what lives within you. So you walk differently now. You're no longer in a hurry. You're no longer desperate to prove, to be chosen, to be understood. You're no longer seeking validation from a world that doesn't even see itself clearly. You've stopped asking for scraps of approval. You sit at the table of your own worth. You feast on the fullness of your inner knowing. And because of this, everything changes. Not overnight, perhaps, not always with fireworks, but subtly, surely, powerfully. The situations that once made you spiral now meet a version of you that smiles. The people that once triggered you now feel no reaction to push against. The fears that once ran your thoughts now dissolve before they can even form. You are free. Free not because the world is easy, but because you've chosen the higher path. Free not because there's no pressure, but because pressure no longer defines your behavior. Free because you no longer give your peace away to the temporary, the petty, the passing. Even in the face of what you don't yet understand, you remain still. You are no longer ruled by the need to figure it all out. You've made peace with mystery. You trust that all things are being worked together in perfect sequence, even when you can't see it. You trust that nothing is being withheld from you, that the delay is not a denial, that the silence is not rejection, it is preparation. So when it seems like nothing is moving, you don't panic. You move inward. You assume the position of the one who already has the thing, already knows the answer, already is the version that the result belongs to, and you dwell there, not briefly, but completely. You stop dipping in and out of belief. You stop wavering between conviction and doubt. You stop negotiating with fear. You set your intention and you remain there. You remain unshaken. You remain calm. You remain undistracted. And that is the difference. That is the power. That is how the unseen becomes seen. Others may call this delusion, but you know better. It's devotion to the unseen reality that is more real than what the five senses can perceive. You are loyal not to what is, but to what is becoming. You are faithful not to circumstances, but to vision. And your vision, held in calm, saturated in peace, will always outlast any appearance of lack, of conflict, of delay. You become the observer, not the reactor. You watch, but you do not absorb. You discern, but you do not descend. You carry peace not as an accessory, but as your essence. It is no longer something you have. It is who you are. And when peace becomes identity, nothing can take it from you. That is why you're no longer shaken. Because your peace is no longer circumstantial. It is positional. It is rooted in your choice, your awareness, your state of being. And that state creates outcomes, attracts answers, produces manifestations. Not through striving, but through stillness. Not through panic, but through presence. The less you need, the more you receive. The less you explain, the more you command. The less you chase, the more you attract. This is not magic, this is law. And now that you've tapped into it, you no longer lower yourself to fight for what belongs to you by nature. Even when you're tempted, you remember. You remember that reaction is expensive. It costs you your energy, your clarity, your alignment. And you no longer pay that price. You've paid it too many times before, and the return was never worth the cost. Now you invest your focus in the only place that matters, your inner world. And from there, all things are added. Not because you beg, but because you believe. Not because you wrestle, but because you rest. And your rest is not passivity, it is power. So you walk through life with grace. You say less. You smile more. You trust the knowing. You hold the vision. And the world, though it may not understand at first, begins to respond. The doors open. The answers come. The resistance falls away. Not because you fought harder, but because you held your peace longer. Not because you were louder, but because your vibration was stronger. Not because you reacted, but because you rose. You rose, and everything else had to rise to meet you. So now you understand your power was never in the noise, but in the stillness. It was never in the reaction, but in the rising. You were never meant to fight for peace. You were meant to be peace. And when you choose that identity moment by moment, breath by breath, the world no longer dictates your reality. You do. Remain unmoved by what tries to shake you. Stay rooted in the vision that calls you. Walk in the quiet confidence of one who already is. And when the world asks, why aren't you reacting? Let your presence speak the answer. Because I have already risen.